beautiful people, welcome back to our platform of Amor and Care, cracking NDIS code. I am your host Moara and we're here with another Q&A. Before we get stuck into today's question, I wanted to thank Claudia and Leo who interviewed with us last week. Claudia is a senior counsellor and clinical supervisor, and Leo is a support coordinator and psychosocial recovery coach. It was wonderful to have them in our channel. We were able to discuss what transitioning into the NDIS was like, what some of the gaps are, and how they're finding traveling in this new journey that has become the disability sector. So if you haven't watched that yet, please do. And if you have any questions, you know what to do. DM us, and that's what we're here for. Today's question is, how is my NDIS funding defined? I think what this person meant was when I apply for the NDIS and someone is building their plan, how does NDIS come up with my funding bundle? When you go into your meeting, there are some questions that the planner normally asks you or the LAC, depending on what stream you are and where you are allocated in your area. Some of the questions might be, what supports you have, so informal supports, mum, dad, uncle, auntie, family and friends, that does count towards how much support you will be requiring. It will also ask what your primary disability is, if you have any secondary disability or health concerns. It will ask if this is an acquired injury, so if you've had an acquired brain injury or if you've had a spinal cord injury within the last 9 months. If you have a very high needs intellectual disability support need, it will also ask you if you have any crossing with the Justice Department, if you have a public trustee or a public guardian involved in your care. All of these factors define how much funding you will be allocated in what's called a TSP. The system, after the planner enters all of these details, creates a total support package which gives the planner a budget to allocate in your plan. This is why it's important when answering questions, you really think about the day that you need most support, because this is what the budget's going to be based on. Other things that are important are, do you have a family in the scheme or someone else that's in the house that's also supported by the NDIS? This helps to streamline you into more complex support needs. When creating your budget, there are 2 assessments that your planner or LAC is likely to use or should be using. One of them is called a HUDAS and one of them is called a PADI-CAT. So a PADI-CAT is assessed on participants that are under the age of 7 or less. And the HUDAS is used for participants over the age of 7 up to the age of 65, which is what you need to be in order to be eligible for the scheme. The PADI-CAT is a session of questions that can be quite time consuming. It can go up to 45 minutes because it is very detailed. The questions vary from things like, how much difficulty does your child have in opening a packet of chips, to assess their finer motor skills, also questions to assess their cognitive skills, how much difficulty does your child have doing up buttons, walking up the stairs, and that will give you a total score, which is then entered in the system that aids to how much funding the participant is going to have in their TSP. If you're over the age of 7, the planner or LAC should use an assessment called HUDAS. Now the HUDAS is a series of questions like, how much difficulty do you have walking for a kilometer? How much difficulty do you have standing for long periods of time? And this HUDAS should be assessed in the last 30 days that you've had. So if you're answering this via the phone or if you're having a face-to-face interview with them, they should ask you to think about the last 30 days and how difficult it has been for you in the last 30 days. It's really important for you to think, how much support have you actually required and what it would be like if you didn't have those things in place. Would you still be able to achieve your goals, or would you still be able to go on performing your everyday tasks? So it is a little bit of everything that forms your TSP. And once the planner has that TSP, then they will go in and allocate that to the different categories inside your plan. This is why it's important to speak to your planner and your LAC and have your reports and your recommendations on what you think is the priority for your supports. because the planner will allocate that based on their understanding after the meeting that you've just had. If you tell them that support work is the most important thing, they will prioritize having more funding in core. If you tell them that therapy is most important, they will prioritize having therapy in your plan. If you go over the TSP, so if the planner thinks that you deserve more than what the system has generated, they can then ask for higher approval for a team leader or someone above them. That is how your funding comes to be. So when you're disputing funding, it's important to know why your planner felt that the TSP that they've entered was correct. It's important to know that the information you provided is also correct, and that they understood just how much support you have at home and how likely that support is to continue. If you're someone who lives with mum, for example, and mum's quite elderly, but she does everything for you, how likely is it that mum is going to be able to continue providing that support? If you don't think that that's likely, or if mum needs some help, or it's not sustainable, you need to make that clear in your meeting so then the planner can enter that into the system. I hope that's helped to clear up a little bit of the confusion and to give you an overall idea of how the funding is generated. Again, if you have any questions, or if this wasn't very clear and you wanted to give us some feedback, please DM us or use your preferred social media method, and we would love to help you. This has been another Q&A, and I look forward to seeing you next time.